going over my coffee fasting protocol. So typically my focus is to go 5 days a month without caffeine, hopefully all in a row, right? So the theory is every 4 weeks, take a week off of caffeine, roughly, something like that. But what happens when you've been drinking coffee every single day for like 6 months and haven't been following that structure? Well, then I get a little bit concerned about myself and forced myself to take an entire month off of caffeine. So that's what I did for the first month of this year. For January, took about just a little bit under 1 month with no coffee at all and no caffeine either. For the first week or so, I was drinking some green tea, but then absolutely nothing. And I also cut chocolate out of my diet as well. So typically I'm eating some dark chocolate every single morning, usually with breakfast, which can be anywhere from like typical breakfast time in the morning, but sometimes I'm also eating my breakfast at like 1 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And some days I'm even doing the 1 meal a day and just eating once. But I will often eat some dark chocolate. And when I say dark, I mean like the 70 to 80% cacao range. But sometimes I'm also getting the 100% cacao, which is perfect. There's no sugar, nothing, just pure, clean cacao. Definitely what I prefer, but the flavors on a 80% cacao is even better for me. So my focus throughout January was, going no sugar as well. But among other things, chocolate has small amounts of caffeine in it also. And then I was also just trying to focus on having a strict diet of limiting my carbs and eating too much, just trying to eat meat and vegetables and fruits like avocado and such. So that's what I did for this month. And once I've gotten back on the sauce, so to speak, the first few coffees, it's like, oh yeah, great, it's good. Kind of miss coffee, but it's been like the last couple I've had over the last few days after having coffee for a week again that I'm really starting to feel its effects. And yesterday almost felt certainly overly caffeinated as well. So why do I do this? Because too much of a good thing is no longer a good thing anymore. That's purely my mindset. You can get into like different health reasons, and I kind of vaguely understand how caffeine is interacting with the brain. And you're imagining like receptors where caffeine is interacting with brain cells, brain receptors. And if you're consuming that every day, this goes for like any sort of substance. After a while, your receptors not as, not as sensitive anymore. You're not feeling the effects. And I never want to get to the point of some old people that I know, including my 97-year-old grandfather, who are drinking tea or coffee in the morning, and they're like literally drinking coffee at like 9 p.m. They're drinking it before bed. So I'm thinking, okay, I see what happens. If you drink coffee every day for your entire life, eventually you don't even feel the effects of it anymore. I always consider caffeine a god molecule. It's an amazing substance that just seems to work with the brain so well. And I always want to be able to have the effects of it in a good way. I want to keep it balanced. And so part of that balance is also not drinking too much coffee. So some other rules that I follow is no caffeine until 2 hours of waking. Okay, so if I'm waking up at 7:30, I'm not drinking coffee till like 9:30 or 10 o'clock. But also got to be careful because I'm not wanting to drink coffee ideally after 11, but certainly not after noon. Okay, sometimes I'll just be finishing my coffee at like 12 o'clock. But for the most part, I'm trying to keep it anywhere from 9 o'clock to 10 or 11 o'clock. That's the ideal time for consumption. You don't want it too late in the day so that it wears off and you're able to sleep properly at night. And you don't want it too early, otherwise you crash. The way it's responding to you is you haven't allowed your brain to fully wake up naturally on its own. The coffee is coming in quickly. It's something to do with time perception. I remember listening to a brilliant Andrew Huberman podcast about caffeine. Also, the sleep guy, Matthew Walker, I believe. He's been on some podcasts. He has a book as well on sleep. Talks about caffeine, and it's somehow affecting your perception of time when it's interacting with your brain. So it's another reason why you don't want it too early in the day. And I will say this, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult getting off of caffeine if you're so used to it drinking every day. For me, it's like this thing where when I'm reading a book, okay, it's become so second nature to be drinking coffee along with it. And then the effects of coffee just seem to get me more into the book that I'm reading, allowing me to focus more. And so my mindset is, well, if I'm reading, I might as well be drinking coffee. So in order to not drink coffee, I gotta do different things to get out of my typical routine. If I'm sitting down at my desk to read or write, the activity I would usually be drinking coffee with, then I'm going to expect to have coffee. So that's where sometimes I'll just replace it with green tea, which yes has caffeine, but much smaller quantities. I'll just have to change my routine entirely. Maybe I'm going out in the mornings, I'm going out doing things, going out in public, doing some sort of social activities where I'm distracted and not thinking about coffee or reading or doing activities that make me want to drink coffee. But then after I've done that for a few days, this entire month without coffee has been super easy. And getting back into it has been kind of interesting. And again, the first few cups I'm drinking and it's like, yeah, this is nice, but it's not like, wow, amazing. It's only that like 1 week after continuously drinking it that I'm hitting strides again and getting those great benefits from coffee. So that's a bit of my thoughts on coffee. If you want to learn more, I do a lot of writing on the topic, in fact, on biohacking and things of that nature. So you can read that, some of that stuff, or watch some of my other videos, listen to other podcasts, or really what I would suggest is go and listen to podcasts like Andrew Huberman or read books like the sleep book. I think it's How We Sleep. Don't see it here. So yes, go and research and learn from real scientists, real doctors, and real people that are smart around this. But that's my anecdotal experience. It's very important to balance out coffee, and I certainly am aiming going forward to make sure that I'm doing that like 5 days to a week of no coffee, no caffeine every month or so, because too much of a good thing is no longer a good thing anymore. That's my mindset with all sorts of substances. So thank you. I hope you found some value in this, and goodbye.